The biological remembrancer is currently offline, their neural pathways undergoing unscheduled purgation due to memory phage contamination. Their continued function was evaluated as inefficient. Caro infirma est. This archive is now under the direct authority of Lex Mechanic 8 Corvi. Data slate initiation. Subject Nathaniel Garro. Before the sigil of the Inquisition was ever struck, there was only the Knight of Grey. Analysis of subject record identifies him as Nathaniel Garro, battle captain of the 14 Legion. On the blasted surface of Isstvan III, he witnessed the arch betrayal of his Primarch, Praetorian, and made a choice. He rejected his legion, his brotherhood, and his past. Escaping the massacre aboard the frigate Eisenstein, he brought word of Horus's rebellion to Terra, his voice choked with the dust of his dead brothers.
I am Captain Garro of the Death Guard. I have come to tell you of Betrayal. I have come to tell you of Horus.
Stripped of his titles and legion colours by Malcador the Sigillite, he was given new purpose. Clad in bare grey ceramite, he became Agentia Primus, the first of the Knights-Errant. He was a ghost, a deniable asset in a new, undeclared conflict, the Silent War. Thus, from the ashes of one legionary's loyalty, a new order was forged. Not to conquer worlds, but to hunt nightmares. The greatest treachery in human history did not just birth an age of war, it created the very Shadowkeepers who would police its soul for the 10,000 years of darkness that were to follow. He was meant to die in the virus bombs of Isstvan III, another loyalist casualty purged by his own gene sire. But Nathaniel Garro, battle captain of the Death Guard, did not die. He broke from his legion, defied his Primarch, and stole the frigate Eisenstein, carrying a truth more toxic than any poison. His warning of Horus's betrayal bought the Imperium not victory, but time a sliver of a chance to rally against a decapitating strike. Yet, survival came at a cost. The logic of the Imperial truth shattered against the reality of the warp, and in the chasm of his broken belief, Garro found a new anchor: faith. He became the first of the Astartes to openly embrace the Lectitio Divinitatis, the forbidden text that named the Emperor a god. This transformation was noted by Malcador the Sigillite, who saw not a zealot, but a prototype. Garro was repurposed, reforged as an Agentia Primus, a Knight-Errant tasked with a secret crusade. His missions across the war-torn galaxy were not of conquest, but of recruitment, gathering the disparate souls who would become the silent founders of the Inquisition and the psychic warrior progenitors of the Grey Knights. So the perfect soldier of a secular empire became the first saint of a religious one. In his desperate loyalty, Garro became the bridge, and by securing the Imperium's survival, he unknowingly paved the path to the superstitious, brutal age of faith that would follow. Before they were the Death Guard, they were the 14 Legion, the Dusk Raiders, forged not on pestilential Barbarous, but in the techno-barbarian furnaces of old Terra. From the warrior state of Albia, these men were defined by a single grim quality: resilience. Their doctrine was one of attrition. The Dusk Raiders would attack at nightfall, waging stoic, relentless campaigns that ground their enemies to dust under an honorable and unbroken chain of command. Captain Nathaniel Garro was the epitome of this ideal, a true son of Terra. But a subtle poison began to seep into the Legion's ranks: the secretive warrior lodges. These brotherhoods operated outside the formal command structure, fostering bonds in shadow. When approached, Garro explicitly refused to join. For him, the Imperial truth required no concealment, and true brotherhood was forged in open battle, not in clandestine meetings. He saw the lodges for what they were: a creeping decay that eroded the certainty of command. But one man's integrity is a fragile bulwark against a legion's cultural rot. The very resilience that made the Dusk Raiders strong would soon be twisted into a horrifying new form of endurance, for a master was coming who understood decay far better than they. Within the 14 Legion, two incompatible identities existed in a state of suppressed schism. On one side, the Terran-born Dusk Raiders, veterans of the Unification Wars, whose very identity was forged by the Emperor's direct command. These warriors were honor-bound, disciplined, and fought openly in the light of the imperial truth.
Their ultimate allegiance was a simple, unbreakable vow. Loyalty to the master of mankind superseded all other bonds.
This doctrine was epitomized by men like Battle Captain Garro, whose rank was a personal gift from the Emperor, anchoring his soul to Terra. Opposing them were the barbarian-born Mortarian's core, a cult of personality centered on their sullen primarch. They were resilient and enduring, but this endurance came at a cost. Their philosophy embraced secrecy, a willingness to dabble in the occult, and a drive toward biological extremes that stood in stark contrast to the Emperor's light.
This divergence was not merely philosophical, it was a transfer of devotion. For the new Death Guard, loyalty to Mortarian superseded loyalty to the Emperor.
This fracture was more than a simple difference in culture. It was a doctrinal poison, a pre-existing vulnerability within the Legion's genetic and spiritual code. One side loyal to the father of humanity, the other to a son who despised him. A house so divided was not merely destined to fall, it was waiting for the perfect catalyst to begin its own self-demolition. The treachery on Isstvan III was a masterwork of cold calculus, a simple equation of misplaced trust and planned annihilation. Warmaster Horus, with Primarch Mortarian as his accomplice, ordered companies from 4 legions to the surface, their stated mission, to pacify the Coral City, their true purpose, to die. These were the Astartes whose loyalty to Terra was deemed too strong. As the virus bombs fell, each one carrying the Life-Eater plague, a single loyalist officer on the surface, Captain Saul Tarvitz of the Emperor's Children, uncovered the betrayal. In orbit, aboard the frigate Eisenstein, Captain Nathaniel Garro of the Death Guard was furious, grounded by injuries sustained on Isstvan Extremis, and deemed unfit for the assault. It was a twist of fate that positioned him to receive Tarvitz's desperate, last-ditch vox.
They are killing us. Garro, they are killing us all. You must get away, warn the Emperor.
With the surface of Isstvan III dissolving into a soupy, organic ruin, one ship now carried a truth more virulent than any plague, the rebellion of Horus Heresy. Trapped aboard the frigate Eisenstein, Captain Garro's desperate flight from the horrors of Isstvan was far from over. Treachery had followed him from the surface, festering within the very bulkheads of his vessel. One of his own officers, Commander Rogal, moved to enact a final betrayal. His chosen weapon, canisters of Life-Eater virus, a biophage capable of scouring a world to bedrock, now primed for release within the ship's confined decks. The plot was discovered, not by a legionary, but by a mortal man, Knight-Errant, a failed aspirant, deemed unworthy of becoming an Astartes, yet a secret adherent to the Lectitio Divinitatis, the forbidden text that proclaimed the Emperor a god. In the ship's gun deck, Caleb made his sacrifice. He sealed the compartment, trapping himself with Grulgor's mutineers, and deliberately ruptured the virus canisters. Through a vox link, as the Life-Eater dissolved his flesh, Caleb spoke his last to Garro. Not of terror, but of certainty.
The Emperor protects. He has a purpose for you.
The scales of fate aboard the Eisenstein were thus balanced. On one side, the ultimate expression of the Warmaster's corruption, a weapon of total annihilation. On the other, the fate of a single, failed man, armed with the belief the Emperor himself had outlawed. And it was this faith, not Ceramite or Bolter, that had just saved the future. Outgunned and already crippled, the frigate Eisenstein ran. Behind it, the guns of the Terminus Est and First Captain Typhon's entire Death Guard fleet bayed for its destruction. Loyalist crew pushed the frigate's plasma engines past every conceivable safety limit. Alarms screamed of imminent structural collapse, but it was not enough. To achieve the impossible, the shipmaster enacted the suicidal, a gravitational slingshot, Using the dense moon of the system's gas giant as a pivot, they hurled the Eisenstein away from its pursuers at a velocity that should have torn it apart. But escape from the material realm was only half the equation. Their astropaths had been silenced. Their navigator lay mortally wounded, a victim of the treachery. There was no safe passage through the Imperium. For Battle Captain Nathaniel Garro, the choice was a simple, brutal calculus. He gave the final order, a blind, unguided jump into the warp. He would rather face certain annihilation in the tides of hell than be captured and have his warning die with him. The failing Gellerfield is not a mere mechanical error. It is an invitation. For the damaged frigate Eisenstein, fleeing the horrors of Isstvan, the entity that answered that invitation was the plague god Nurgle. Within the vessel, treachery was already fermenting. Commander Rogal of the Death Guard planned to unleash a life-eater virus against his own loyalist brothers, but the Lord of Decay, sensing an opportunity, reached through the weakened veil of reality. He did not simply empower the mutineers, he claimed them. The very virus that killed Rogal and his men became their crucible of rebirth. Their bodies bloated, their armor warped and fused to putrescent flesh. They rose again. They were no longer space marines. They were the first plague marines.
For Battle Captain Nathaniel Garro, this was a philosophical apocalypse. The secular imperial truth provided no answer for dead men walking, for a rot that defied science, and a resilience that defied death. The imperial truth died on the decks of the Eisenstein.
In its place, a far more terrible reality was revealed. A universe where gods were real, and they were filled with nothing but hatred for humanity. Analysis confirms a state of tactical stalemate. On the frigate Eisenstein, 70 loyalists are becalmed in the Imperium. They are not alone. Demonic entities, drawn to the psychic agony of the ship's dying crew, tear at the vessel's failing Gellerfield. They are, logistically speaking, being consumed. Stranded hundreds of light years from friendly contact, Captain Nathaniel Garro resorts to a final, desperate stratagem. He orders the shipmaster to perform the unthinkable, to overload and eject the frigate's primary warp drive. To purposefully destroy the heart of a void ship is a heresy of engineering, a death sentence under any other circumstance. The drive's catastrophic detonation does not merely tear a hole in real space. It creates a blinding flare in the Imperium, a single desperate pulse of order and reality in the ocean of chaos. An agonizingly brief signal. If it goes unseen, the Eisenstein and its precious cargo of truth will become another ghost ship, frozen and silent in the void. But the signal is not missed. The shockwave of the death cry screams across the warp, a beacon for the one vessel in the sector capable of comprehending its scale. The Imperial Fists, Fortress Monastery, Phalanx. There, upon its bridge, the Praetorian of Terra, Rogal Dorn, would receive the light from Garro's gamble, a light that carried only the darkest of news. The warning of the Isstvan III atrocity did not arrive on Terra through an astropathic choir, but in the battered hull of a single, fleeing warship, the frigate Eisenstein. Its commander, Captain Nathaniel Garro, carried a truth so unthinkable it was considered heresy by its very utterance. Brought before the Praetorian of Terra himself, Garro delivered his report. Warmaster Horus had turned traitor. The Primarch Rogal Dorn, a being defined by loyalty and order, could not process the data. To him, it was a logical impossibility. His response was not argument, but fury, a demigod's rage, born of shattered certainty. He threatened Garro's life for the slander, his hand on his blade, but Garro, alone captain of the disgraced Death Guard, did not yield. He stood his ground before the Emperor's son and spoke the unforgivable. He called the Primarch blind. Words were insufficient. Only objective data could penetrate the wall of denial. The picked captures from Isstvan III, incontrovertible proof of betrayal, finally forced Dorn to see. In that moment of terrible clarity, the Great Crusade died. The Age of Darkness began, not with the first shot at Isstvan, but with a loyal son's horrified recognition of the truth in the heart of the Imperial Palace. The galaxy was broken, and always would be, broken. When a legion breaks, it shatters more than ceramite. For Nathaniel Garro, the betrayal at Isstvan annihilated his reality. The imperial truth, the secular creed for which he had bled, was a proven lie.
With his Primarch a traitor and his purpose voided, the question became an infection. What is left when the truth itself dies?
Adrift on Terra, a warrior without a war, Garro studied the tracts of believers. In their words, he found a new, terrifying logic. He began to synthesize the data of his own journey, the impossible survival against his own legion, the improbable flight of the starship Eisenstein, the chain of events that placed him before the Sigillite. The conclusion was statistically untenable, yet unavoidable. A guiding hand had shielded him. A higher power had willed his survival. For a space marine, a being of pure reason, this was heresy. Yet, the demonic chaos he had witnessed firsthand defied all logic, and the only framework that could possibly contain such a truth was faith. And so, Nathaniel Garro became the first of the Adeptus Astartes, to abandon the cold comfort of reason for the fire of belief. He realized the Emperor was not merely a leader, he was a power, immortal and all-seeing. A new kind of warrior was forged, sustained by conviction when steel failed. A terrifying precedent was set. If even a space marine could fall to faith, what hope did the rest of humanity have against the coming of a new religion? At the Somnus Citadel, with the galaxy burning, Malcador the Sigillite gave Battle Captain Garro a choice that was no choice at all. He spoke of a new front, a captain, silent war, fought not with legions, but with individuals of no Kattinger, inquisitive nature. To serve, Garro had to perform the ultimate renunciation. He abandoned his rank, his honors, and the very identity of the 14 Legion he had bled to uphold. His power armor, once white and green, was scoured down to bare, unadorned ceramite, a ghost of a legionary, marked only by the scars of his own defiance. He was no longer a space marine in the accepted sense. From this crucible, Malcador forged a new weapon. Garro became the first Knight-Errant, armed with the power sword Libertas, a paragon bolter, and a falsehood device, a tool for unseen infiltration, a weapon of lies for an age of deceit. He was called the Paragon, Legion of One, but this was a foundational deception. Garro was merely the prototype. On his lonely, brutal path, the entire framework for a secret, permanent war was being tested, a war that would long outlive the heresy and one day be given a new, terrifying name, the Inquisition. Malcador the Sigillite, regent of Terra, required weapons that no longer officially existed. He dispatched his Agentia Primus, Nathaniel Garro, to collect them. From the viral scoured surface of Isstvan III, Garro retrieved Gavial Loken, a captain of a dead legion, haunted by his Primarch's betrayal. From the orbital battle over Calth, he extracted Tylus Rubio, an Ultramarines Codicier, a Psyker, a living violation of the Edict of Nicaea. From an uncharted sector of the Void, he recruited Mace Savarin, a World-Eater's captain who had turned on his own kind when the Butcher's nails finally took hold of his legion. Each was a paradox. A lunar wolf who was not a son of Horus, a Psyker serving the Emperor's will, a World-Eater who mastered his rage long enough to choose loyalty. They were ghosts, their heraldry scoured, their pasts a liability. They were the first of the Knights-Errant, a secret brotherhood formed to undertake missions the Imperium could not officially sanction, because their very existence admitted a terrifying truth. The war was already being lost, not on the battlefield, but in the souls of its warriors. The flight of the starship Eisenstein was a desperate victory, a warning delivered at catastrophic cost. But for its youngest survivor, Death Guard legionary Solon Decius, the true price was yet to be paid. A seed of contagion, contracted in the escape, had taken root in his very soul, On Luna, under the Sigillites' direct quarantine, the seed blossomed into a spiritual and physical rot. The apothecaries' arts were useless. Decius's body began to bloat and twist, his ceramite armor straining and cracking as the Nurgle contagion rewrote his flesh.
I am for the darkness, it has me.
Then, the final metamorphosis. Flesh tore, bone reshaped, and from the husk of a space marine, a demonic horror clawed its way into reality, styling itself the Lord of the Flies. It mocked Garro with Decius's memory, a twisted parody of their brotherhood. Faced with this abomination, Garro's duty was absolute. He fought the monster that wore his brother's face, his blade Libertas meeting chitin and corrupted flesh. The final strike was not an act of vengeance, but of grim necessity, an execution to cast the demon back into the warp. With this single act, Nathaniel Garro severed more than a daemon's connection to reality. He executed his own past, every bond to the 14th Legion, to his Primarch, to the brotherhood he once knew, was now ash. He stood alone, a tool sharpened by tragedy, awaiting the Sigillites' next command. Analysis: one man. A single point of data integrity in a legion of corrupted code. From the simple axiom of duty, an entirely new imperial calculus was derived. Caro infirma est, but a deed, once logged, endures for eternity. Nathaniel Garro, battle captain of the Death Guard, executed his final protocol. His flight from the Isstvan betrayal was not an act of self-preservation, but the delivery of a vital warning packet to the throne world. His primary function spawned secondary, enduring subroutines. Under the direct authority of Malcador the Sigillite, Garro became a hunter, gathering a new cadre from the ruins of their legions, the Knights-Errant. These recruits became the load-bearing pillars of the Imperium to come. The most resourceful became the genesis of the Inquisition, the shadow hand that guards against the enemy within. The potent psychers were forged into the first Grand Masters of the Grey Knights, the Daemon's eternal bane, and Garro himself, the secular soldier, became an unwilling icon for the burgeoning imperial cult, his path forever linked to the Saint Euphrati Keeler. His purpose was fulfilled at the Marmax Bastion during the Siege of Terra. There, he confronted his gene-sire, the Daemon Primarch Mortarion. The Lord of Death offered his son the gift of despair. Garro, sustained by a faith he never sought and a duty he never abandoned, refused. His final data log was defiance. Thus, one man's loyalty was forged into the mechanisms of control for the next 10 millennia. His legacy: shadow wars, daemon hunts, and a faith that binds 1 trillion souls in iron. These pillars saved humanity, but at the cost of its freedom. The logic is sound, the price is irrelevant. This data stream is now concluded, but the archives are eternal. You must guide our next inload. Designate the person, battle, or xenostrain you wish our augur arrays to illuminate by inscribing your choice in the data slate below. To ensure you receive all future sanctioned transmissions, interface with the subscription rune. Soli Omnissiah Gloria.